about that.
Especially since he got in that fight with the...
Tell us again. The book is Tall Tales Over Short Fences by Mac Ashworth Jr. And it's a collection of prose and poetry and other potpourri by this guy. And he has written shorts. He has written a newspaper column on business and economics. He's been a short story writer and even a ghostwriter for others. His writing springs from his varied lifetime occupations such as auto salesman, grocery clerk, rancher, teacher, farmer, banker, traveler, and marketing and public relations executive.
Sounds like Joe Dan.
Sounds just like Joe Dan. Yeah. This must be a ghostwriter for Joe Dan.
I had a pen name once.
He's a third-generation Texan. He graduated from SMU and is a veteran of the Korean War. And he's got a wife and 6 kids and 8 grandkids, and he lives in Tyler.
Doesn't sound much like me in that second part.
Doesn't look like much like you either, Joe Dan, so I wouldn't worry about that. Anyway, I'm going to read just a cold reading, as they say, of 1 or 2 of his poems. I was at Vacation Bible School all week taking...
My clear liquid fell on your floor. My clear liquid. Okay.
I didn't hear the floor yelling at you, so you're okay.
Well,
my floor will complain bitterly if you...
Well, if you had a little sopping up thing, I'd put it there.
Sopping up thing. Okay, sopping up.
Just a little rag, just so it won't stay wet.
Little paper towel. How's that?
I know better than to carry things with color in them. I don't do it.
If it was alcoholic, my carpet would say more.
I think those 2 little one-liners on the email, one of them was, if 2 chickens are crossing the road, it's poultry in motion. And the other one was, if a poet is writing upside down, he's writing in verse. I saw both of them were funny.
Yeah, well, okay. This is called Awake, New York, Awake. I'm reading it because I'm from New York. That's the only reason I'm reading it.
Okay.
That's a good reason. The city awakes, although it's never really been to sleep. As morning comes, she begins to sing, with the zinging of the elevators up and down their shafts and the pinging at each floor. The dumpster begins at 4, revving up its engine, gulping down the trash. The cabbies pick up the pace by honking their horns, shouting a word or two. I've been in them all with buildings, oh so tall, but there's an awe about this city, like no other place I know. Its churches, their steeples, and the people. There's excitement in the air. It's everywhere. It puts a tingle within you. The cabbies begin to awaken as they hear that ever-present word, cab, cab. Where to, sir? The vendors begin their chant as the song of the city is carried on. People in a hurry appearing to have no worry. The horns get louder. The voices get stronger. You can see the buildings swell. Then the city settles down. Wall Street begins its chatter. Nothing the matter, nothing the matter. Like bees from the hive at lunchtime. The drugstore counters begin to fill. The restaurants overflow. Somehow it all takes place, and back to the hive they go. As evening comes on, its guests return to apartments in the city or across the bay with not much to say. The subway doors open and everyone gets in with very little space to spare. They pour out at each station with arms out to whomever is there, and the city settles down as its daily guests depart. The sidewalks are given a shower so as to be clean for tomorrow. When the elevators begin to zing and ping and the dumpsters start to sing their song to awaken the city, to awaken the city.
And that's true, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is absolutely.
It's nice when someone catches the spirit.
This is called Morning Comes. How would you know when morning comes? How would you know? By the song of the birds high up in the trees, or the gull as she passes over the waves in heavy seas? How would you know when morning comes? How would you know? Dumpsters collecting the trash in the city, trains starting to move down the track. How would you know when morning comes? How would you know? In the country, you smell sweet bacon. The city, it's coffee and bagels. They say it's first light, but many are where it can't be seen. How would you know? You'll just know. God planned it so.
Theology here.
Yep. Gotta have a little of everything here. This is called Candy and Toys. Boys, toys, and sugar candy. Trains and things and popcorn balls. Little girls with long curls, petticoats, and Barbie dolls. Superman and Moby Dick. That's what they saw at the flick. Now it's big boys with bigger toys, and they'll eat whatever is handy. Little girls are bigger now. No long curls or petticoats or candy. It's short skirts and high heel shoes. The game's the same, just more alluring. And the boys don't know what they're doing. Still playing train and eating candy, wondering what little girls are up to.
What is it? Isn't there a song, Thank Heaven for Little Girls?
Thank heaven.
Yeah, Maurice Chevalier sang that, and Gigi.
Perfect.
Gigi was the thing. This is called, it's the last one I'll read. This is called Imagination Cowboy. This is for all your cowboy poets out there. I think riding horses and being a cowboy came natural with me. I was riding stick horses at 3, merry-go-round horses at 4. Could you ask for more? Cowboy, oh yes. I was Tom Mix at 8. The Lone Ranger at 9. I'd say I'm doing fine as cowboys go. You might have seen me at the Wild West show or the rodeo. Now late in life, I'll go with Willie. He's all the cowboy I want to be. You see, he's a little like me, make-believe. I'll say no more, just close the door, so you can imagine too.
You know, I like that song. You know, I was Tom Mix at 8.
You were?
Yeah.
So you
And stayed Tom Mix until I was probably 11 or so.
Well,
I mean, you know, I really lived
if
Tom.
I ever grow up, I'll stop being the Lone Ranger.
We need to let Doc be. Now, you got something coming up, right? You're going to be in a
We're
hurry.
going to stay as long as we can, but if
Yeah.
I can go next.
We might ought to let Doc
Do you think
go
we ought to
next.
let Doc go next? Let's vote.
I vote yes.
Bonnie votes yes. That's all we
There.
need. That's all we
That's
need.
it.
Bonnie voted yes.
We're going out to a hootenanny here after a while out at Fellowship Baptist Church. So I have that on the second Friday night, third Friday night. What is this?
Third Friday.
The third Friday.
Third Friday.
Well, what is
This is third Friday, right?
It was
Yeah.
his third
Tonight,
Friday.
yeah. So it's the Fellowship Baptist Church that's out on 2869. Musical they have, and they have a fellowship usually in between, but they decide to change things and have it first thing. So some of the musicians that's running a little bit late from work or whatever can get on the schedule.
Well, just one brief thing before you go. Marion Miller pulled a fast one on me. We had a hootenanny at WCA last month. It was, I don't know what Sunday it was, but it was a Sunday afternoon. And we discussed having it every month on the second Sunday. And she said, you know, we need binders. So I said, oh, my store will buy the binders. And I went out and bought a case of binders. And then I got up to, we were getting up to after the first Sunday, I emailed Marianne and said, well, what about the hootenanny? I got the binders, I'm all set. Well, I don't have time to do it. I got too much on my plate. So now that's dead, right, as far as I know. I may try to
Nanny on,
second Sunday,
on,
on the second Sunday
so she gonna do it?
afternoon. No, she's not going to do it.
So it's now a dead issue?
Well, unless I do it. And, you know, I may
Do it.
do it here at the shop. I don't have access to the art center, but
They won't allow that? Won't allow you?
They will.
They would let her use it, but not you?
Well, she's got a key.
As much as you do for the
She's
artist?
on the
Key.
board. She's on the board. I am not.
Make you a board associate.
They made me an honorary member, but that means nothing. You know, I have no vote.
I announced that one
They
already.
don't listen to me when I ask them to do things. So. Anyway, I'm going to get something to slurp on while you.
Okay,
Prepare
if you'll
to-
get Denise a water, I'll pay for it here in a minute, if you got an extra one.
Denise wants a water.
Maybe.
I'm okay.
You okay?
She's okay. She doesn't want a water.
Okay.
She wants a beer, and you have to go
Probably.
next door for that, or across the street. And they won't let you bring it over here, except on Saturday, except on Monday night. Monday night. You wait till Monday night, I'll get you a beer.
Writing for the brand.
We're gonna go back to my favorite book, Red Steagall, Riding for the Brand. All that.
Good enough, thank you.
So we're gonna do the memories in grandmother's trunk. Do you remember one very similar to that? I think you was sitting here when we was talking
Yeah.
about it. There was one in an old magazine that was wrote in like the 40s.
Yeah, I remember that now.
This was a little bit different because when I started reading it, I looked and I said, no, this is whole different verbiage, but it still brought back memories of my grandmother's trunk and my great-grandfather that moved to Winnsboro in 1880. But it's called The Memories of Grandmother's Trunk. They came in a wagon from St. Joe, Missouri. Grandmother was 7 years old. I remember that she said that she walked most of the way, though the rain and the mud and through the cold. She saw the Comanche. They come into the camp. Not the savage she'd seen in her dreams. They were ragged and pitiful, hungry and cold, begging for salt pork and beans. They staked out a claim at the Cross Timbers breaks, where the big herds went north to the rail. One day a cowpuncher gave her a calf, too young to survive on the trail. Their Jersey cow gave more milk than they needed. The calf grew up healthy and strong. She staked him in the fall in the grass by the creek and pampered him all winter long. In April, her daddy rode into Fort Worth with her calf on the end of a rope. He traded her prize for a red cedar trunk that she filled full of memories and hope. I found grandmother's trunk hidden under a bed in the back room where she used to sleep. I spent the whole morning reliving her youth through the trinkets that she fought to keep. There's the old family Bible, yellowed and worn. On the first page was her family tree. She traced it clear back to the New England coast, and the last entry she made was of me. I unfolded a beautiful star pattern quilt. In the corner, she cross-stitched her name. I wondered how many children it kept safe and warm from the cold of the West Texas plain. A tattered old picture that says, "Mom, I love you." Though faded, there's a young soldier's face and a medal of honor the government sent when he died in a faraway place. A cradle board covered with porcupine quills, traded for salt pork and beans, was lying on top of a ribbon that read, "Ford County Rodeo Queen." Dried flowers pressed in a book full of poems, a card with this message engraved, "To my darling wife on her 25th year," and some old stamps my grandfather had saved. Of course, there are pictures of her daddy's folks. They sure did look proper and prim. I reckon if they were to come back to life, we'd look just as funny to them. Grandmother's life seemed so simple and slow, but the world started changing too soon. She heard the first radio. She saw the first car and lived to see man on the moon. Life on this planet is still marching on, and I hope that my grandchildren see my side of life through the trinkets I've saved, the way my grandmother's trunk did for me.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Well, very good book.
Very simple.
Yeah.
So, which one of y'all gonna be next?
I'll go and then we'll. Okay. For you. Please say I have it. For you, I have the dry line.
Great.
Autograph.
I've been wanting that. Yeah, thank you.
The last two poems that I've done were conflicted and definitions, neither of which were very happy thoughts. So I've written one today called On a More Positive Note.
Oh.
Forcing you to be positive.
I like God, earthworms, puppies, and babies who smile. I like lots of roses and gardeners to tend them. I like my Mercedes-Benz with the top down driving on Pacific Coast Highway with the ocean and Catalina to my left and bougainvillea growing up the cliffs on my right. I like friends who are always in my corner and my husband who's faithful and sincere. I like my ex-husband living far away from me. Blue skies, puffy white clouds, and red birds feeding at my feeder are a pleaser. Rare prime rib, anything chocolate, sipping champagne from a crystal flute glass, Courvoisier and an excellent cigar make my heart sing. Comfortable bed, piled high with pillows, smooth sheets, soft lights, and blackout shades. Then add 2 basset hounds cuddled at our feet, a good book or swamp people on TV. What more could I ask? Well, maybe the sight of a big full moon coming up over the woods, or a rainy night on the outside but never on the inside. There's arty stuff that sets my right side brain happily creating, sculpture, photographs, stories to write, decorating, and poeticizing. I like complimenting people on their successes, and I like getting compliments too. Finally, but not all on my first-rate list, I like third Fridays of the month at Conrad's and my Live Poet Society compadres who understand there's more to life than meets the eye. Oh, and by the way, I like really, really expensive French perfume.
I never did it in the Mercedes, I did it in the Porsche.
What?
I said I never did it in the Mercedes, but I did it in the Porsche.
What'd you do?
Rode
Right
down
off
Pacific Coast Highway with the ocean on one side and the flowers on the other.
Jim Laurent, you're up.
Okay, that's it. We're ready for you.
Well, first off,
Glad to see you back.
well, it's been January, February, March, and June are busy months. We go to a lot of cattle shows. But firstly, I don't consider myself a cowboy. I might be a cattleman. I've had cowboys work for me, but I'm not a cowboy. This first one is about the cows that I love. We call them Brahmins. Everybody else calls them Bremers. You can tell a lot about a man's ability by the things that come from his mouth. This is true if you're from the north, east, west, or south. Bramers are always a subject that for me there is no debate. For if a so-called cowboy says bad things about Bramers, for me, he's sealed his fate. Good cowboys like Bramers for a few good reasons, you see. This don't come from no book or university. Bramers are the best mamas, there is no doubt. Mess with their baby and you'll find out what them horns are all about. That old Bramer is a survivor, you see. She can make a cowboy a living from sea to shining sea. From the deep waters of the Florida marsh to the deserts of West Texas where the weather is so harsh. That old Bramer, without any fear, will raise a big calf from year to year. Now's the next part, don't you know, that separates the real cowboy from any old Joe. You see, handling Bramer cattle ain't for the faint of heart, but if a cowboy handles them right, Bramers will always do their part. A good hand can drive her to the moon and back. This is if his intelligence don't lack. So when you sit and say you hate them Bramers and how, remember that sometimes it helps to be smarter than the cow.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Did you just do that one?
Yeah.
In these months that have separated?
No, I did this a year or so ago, I guess. And this other one is called Mortality. For most of my life, I've never given it a thought, although from a youngster of it I've been taught. It was in the future and didn't apply to me, while I was young and stout, as anyone could see. Time has a way of marching right past your door, and we find ourselves bent closer to the floor. Our mortality slips upon us quicker than a flash. Our life has gone by like a 100-yard dash. As loved ones pass around us, relatives and such, we realize the time that's left is not very much. The trick is to live for God, so more immortals we can be. We pass from this world, and from our bodies we are free. The spirit returns to God, who gave it, and if we're faithful to the end, he will live forever with Jesus, brothers, and friends.
Amen.
Very good.
That's it.
Thank you.
Good.
Denise, unless you brought one, I guess are you poetess today?
She could if she would. She was playing the piano earlier, and it was nice.
We had her as a guest pianist at Tennant Chapel once, and she was
Really
fabulous.
liked it.
Yeah. What I've got today is a little miscellany. Some of it I picked out kind of based on some things that was said tonight, earlier. I've been reading my late daughter's poetry for the past several months, and I'm going to take one break from that and read just a little bit of my stuff here. Something I don't have a date or anything on. It just says Live Poets Society. I think I must have done this for something that was being some event that the Live Poets Society was involved in, or something like that. And I'd almost forgotten that I had written. It's a little short thing, you know. As I said, when we first started this organization, I read a lot of stuff that I didn't really consider true poetry, but there were things that I had written in prose that some people had told me that it had a poetic tone to it. I don't know. All of us have read things or heard things read that are sheer prose, you know, but it had a poetic sound to it. And I'm always complimented. I always feel that's one of the highest compliments that I can get, because usually when I write something, I read it aloud, and I feel like anybody who writes anything, prose or poetry, hasn't really given it its due unless they've read it aloud, you know, really multiple times. For cadence, you know, and that's really I think what spells the difference between prose and poetry is cadence. And that's why some prose is pure poetry, or poultry in motion, walking across the road. But anyway, this little thing here, I want to, 10 or 12 lines. The brainchild of facilitator Bonnie Sir-Kegian White, huntersmoonfarm@gmail.com. This group first gathered on March 19 at Winnsboro Center for the Arts, with each attendee instructed to bring a single poem, preferably a recent creation, for reading before the group and to discuss a mission statement. Those attending the first meeting: Bonnie Sir-Kegian White, Liz Satinjek, Joe Dan Boyd, Karen Jerome, Johnny Jerome, Angela Wiley, Lucy Germany. If you'd like to attend the next meeting scheduled for April 16, also at Winnsboro Center for the Arts, bring a poem to read and a favorite book, preferably on poetry, as recommended reading for the group. That's how we started out. For the first 2 or 3 times we met at the Arts Center, we met at Art and Espresso a time or two, and somehow or another Conrad invited us, gave us a permanent home, and we're really
Which
grateful.
I thank you enormously.
Very grateful for that.
Your camera's doing something I don't know how to fix.
What does it say?
MF is not available, and
It says what is not available.
MF.
Oh, well, I don't think you have a problem. I think you just really, I think all that's telling you is you can't do. You somehow or another this thing got moved from automatic focus to manual focus. I don't know how that happened, but that's the problem.
Okay.
It's back on automatic now. Then I had this little thing that I wrote, 5 years ago. This one is dated. It says the summer of 2010. And this was just kind of something that one day I thought, and I don't know what, I don't have a month written. Yeah, I do. 9/16/2010, September. Why I did this in September, I don't know. But I'm on the board of the Lee Cemetery, and that was one of the things. That's how I start off the first verse of this, with something that's going on at Lee Cemetery, which is where all of my loved ones are buried, or most of my loved ones. I've got loved ones buried in several of the cemeteries around here. But this is my favorite cemetery. It's where my mother is buried, where my grandparents are buried, where my daughter is buried. And we have a Memorial Day each year. And anyway, here's the little poem, The Summer of 2010. This is a little bit like some of the thoughts that I heard expressed in some of these previous readings. We patched the roads in a 154-year-old cemetery. Dark oil sand, pulverized, smoothly rolled. Easier pathways for all, whether strong or weary. Visiting those who left us, the young, the old. Days of sunshine. The granddaughter's presence. Her smile is instant, open, laughter's child. The long weekends with Sonny's life essence, her departures unwelcome, somehow darkly wild. We storyboard a video for the church's ESL class, interview those with experiences to share. Our cameras capture images, freeze frame